call the regular Pleasant Ridge City Commission meeting of Tuesday, April 8th, 2014 to order. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amy, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Foreman?
Here.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Here.
Commissioner Perry?
Here.
Commissioner Scott?
Here.
Mayor Metzger?
Here. Thank you. The first item is consideration of the following minutes. Special City Commission meeting held Tuesday, March 11th, 2014. Regular City Commission meeting held Tuesday, March 11th, 2014. And Special City Commission meeting held Tuesday, March 18th, 2014. Do I have a motion to approve?
Your Honor, I move the minutes of the Special City Commission meeting held Tuesday, March 11th, 2014, the regular City Commission meeting held Tuesday, March 11th, 2014, and the Special City Commission meeting held Tuesday, March 18th, 2014 be approved as recommended.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? May we take a vote?
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Foreman?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes, motion carries. The next item is consideration of the March 2014 disbursement report. Any?
Mayor, do you mind if I send this to Acting City Manager Peter Zak? Unfortunately, I do not have the disbursement authorization. So if he would be willing to present it, I would appreciate that.
I'm sure you would.
Good job.
Hey,
I can handle this one.
this is big.
Mr. Mayor, the March 2014 payroll liabilities were $4,906.70, and the accounts payable were $652,526.99, of which $206,910.51 were tax liabilities.
Do I have a motion for approval?
Mayor, I move the March disbursement report be approved as listed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Were there any questions? Anybody have any? Can we take a vote?
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Foreman?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, next item is consideration of the governmental reports. I see we have several representatives in the audience tonight. This is pretty exciting. So, who wants to go first? Look at it. Let's all not fight for it. Ellen.
Well, good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of Council. My name is Ellen Lipton, and I am the state representative for the 27th District, which includes, of course, the great city of Pleasant Ridge. And this is a good opportunity for me to sort of give you the sort of an update of where we're at. The legislature is on a break right now, and there are a lot of people, as I've been going to my various cities and school districts, that are very happy that the legislature is on because there's the notion that when the legislature is not in session, then mischief cannot be wrought. So this is a good opportunity for me to visit my 7 communities and 4 school districts and give sort of an update of where we are right now at the state. And where we think things are going for the remaining part of the session. The big news at the end of session before the break was really 2 major issues, and one was the issue of how the personal property tax repeal was going to be dealt with. And then what was going to happen with the statewide school district, sort of the takeover district. I'll begin with the school district issue. There's been a proposal for the state to create a statewide school district, whose geographical boundaries would extend throughout the entire state, and it would act as sort of a takeover district, if you will. That legislation has been around now. This is now the second year of the legislation, and it passed the House right before session was over for the second time, and it is now back in the Senate. And I'm happy to report, because I have been staunchly opposed to that proposal. The good news is that the Senate is no closer to passing the bill that the House passed than they were a year ago. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The main reason being that there's really no data showing that the state coming in and taking over a district does anything to improve educational outcomes. We have proposed an alternative plan that we are now hoping that the legislature will take up, and it involves using educational audits and using the ISDs in a more robust way to actually figure out what is happening at a very local level in the school district, and then using the community to actually generate a turnaround plan that will sort of right the ship, if you will. So the other issue that was taken up in the legislature was the personal property tax replacement. PPT, the personal property tax, has been repealed, but the sticking point, of course, for the past year has been, how is that revenue going to be replaced? So, in typical fashion, the legislature could not come up with a solution. So the solution that has passed the House and the Senate is that the PPT will only remain repealed if the essential services tax will be passed by a vote of the people. Okay, so that will now go before the voters in the August election. So it is not a complete solution, but it is, if you will, saying, okay, to the voters, if in fact you want the replacement revenue for essential services, police, fire, etc., that the personal property tax contributed to, then you have to vote for this new tax. Okay, so that's really how that issue has been resolved. And then, of course, the last issue that is on everyone's mind is the road funding issue. And in the supplemental appropriation that we took up right before session adjourned, the $300 million out of the surplus, if you will, was put into a line item to deal with emergency road services, cities that had experienced deficits in salt, snow removal, and what have you. And those funds are going to be distributed according to the normal, I believe it's Act 61.
51.
Act 51.
We already got the money.
Formula.
We got it.
All 9,000.
Yeah, $9,000
But the bigger issue is the issue of major road projects.
Yeah.
And that has become an extremely political endeavor. And what I mean by that is, instead of using the normal formula that are used to determine whether a project is necessity of project, whether it's in the queue, if you will, what the Senate did was they literally went off the grid and came up with their own proposal in terms of which projects are going to be funded. So every member was asked to put forth their projects, and lo and behold, the projects that got funded were primarily those of members that in the Senate that are facing tough re-elections. It became extremely political. I've had a number of conversations with Senator Papageorge, who chairs the who chairs the Transportation Subcommittee, and they keep talking about more road funding will be available for other projects, but unfortunately, because this is an election year in the Senate, well, it's an election year in the House as well, but the Senate is also up for re-election. I fear that the selection of projects is going to remain extremely political. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see that happening from the standpoint of road funding. Finally, the issue of the budget. Budgets will be done again, most likely by the end of June, early July. I don't expect there to be any differences in funding for revenue sharing. There may be a very slight uptick, but I don't expect, based on the governor's budget recommendation and based on where the committees are at right now, there being any additional funds. I don't expect there to be any cut in revenue sharing, but you're going to see the same type of philosophy in terms of performance-based funding. And that line item will, and I say use the air quotes because obviously the performance criteria is questionable in my mind. However, having said that, I expect that kind of philosophy for revenue sharing dollars will remain the same in this year's budget. You're not going to see, I don't expect any changes very much. There may be some tweaks in terms of what is put into the criteria, but it's going to be very, very minimal. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to answer questions. I'm always available, and I'll take questions now or at any time.
Just a couple things. So, starting at the end with the revenue sharing, what is the discussion around getting rid of EVIP? I know that Michigan Municipal League and everybody else is saying it's the most
Stupid.
Yeah. And it's just onerous
Yeah.
requirements for absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And really what's being put in these things is meaningless in most cases, just to get the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any move?
Well, what you will continue to see under the current administration is the use of budgeting to make policy. Okay, that is that became abundantly clear to me. I served on appropriations last session, and you saw an enormous change in the way that budgets were handled and will continue to be handled under the current administration. And what I mean by that is budgets are being rolled up, meaning that all 15 line items, which had always been debated separately, are now bundled together, making it very difficult to pull out various line items in each budget. So it's become a very transparent process. It's become a very opaque process. The issue of using EVIP, we see that in virtually every budget. This concept of what I call policymaking in the appropriations budget. This particular administration has found that it's far easier to make substantial policy by holding the carrot of the dollar over communities or school districts or what have you. So I don't see that changing under the current political landscape. And quite frankly, because the administration feels that they've been somewhat successful in making policy through the budgeting process, I expect that we may see more of it, actually, in the various budgets. Now, you were very correct in saying that it is it's a very problematic way of passing budgets and making policy, quite frankly. There is a reason why you make policy in the policy committees, and that you don't hold the purse over your various entities until they do certain things. But that's what we're seeing, and we're going to see more of that under the current administration and under the current legislature.
I think there's some times when you can do that, and because people won't do it themselves, so you got to force them. But you got to make the requirements a little more reasonable, or at least
Well-
more meaningful or something. It's
Exactly, exactly, and that's a really good point because we've asked. I remember on the education front because a similar best practices effort is used, and when we asked the administration, okay, well, what data can you point to showing that this is somehow going to increase the educational outcome of students, and they were quite honest in saying, nope, we have absolutely no data. We have absolutely nothing other than the fact that this is what we want school districts to do, so this is how we're going to do it. And you see a lot of the same thing. There's no evidence that shows that consolidation is always beneficial. It's something that communities will do when it makes sense, but to have the state impose that as a condition, whether or not it makes sense, is foolish. So,
I have a question real quick. So I was reading about the budget and the EVIP things, and it looks like what's currently out being proposed is that communities that receive under $50,000 of those funds will be exempt from having to do those
right,
items. Okay.
right.
Well, that's good news for us.
That is
Until, but we're going to get to my problem with that is that it's just this arbitrary number that somebody decided to make up. So in 6 years, when we get a 2% increase every year, and we're at $50,030, now we have to comply with these.
Hopefully they'll jump it up
With
to
these
60.
three things that we're already doing the dashboard. I think last year we had 25 unique hits on our dashboard site because the information is already out there in all these other places, and it just was. I was the one who always had to do it, so I was just like, oh, those deadlines are coming. You're just like you're doing this to get your $13,000 check, and it's like it just seemed like busy work, but the state doesn't have, they don't have to comply with the same type of things. It was just crazy, but
it's arbitrary.
right.
It doesn't make any sense. And the reality is that if you really want to have performance-based funding, okay,
Good performance.
exactly.
That's a real
You fully
performance.
fund all
Right.
of your communities,
Exactly.
and then if you want to highlight what a community is doing above and beyond that, then you can have something showing, okay, this is a model that you could use or what have you. That isn't what happened,
No.
okay? We had a situation where communities were slashed to the bone, okay, and a fraction of the amount was put back into a line item, and forcing communities now to basically fight over the scraps and say, okay, well, we're rewarding this kind of performance, whether or not it makes sense or not. That's a definition of foolishness.
Because I was in a bind of whether I'd send a letter to oppose it, because it's like, we might, for a few years we might float on the radar, but you know what? It's just wrong, and it's just not right
No.
to make this busy work for everybody and to get their money. Like I said, to win the contest, that there really isn't a winner.
Right. And there's some interesting consultants that have popped up that you might notice.
I know.
Selling their
a lot of money off of
their
this.
wares.
Absolutely, lots of money.
Yep. And that has become a whole cottage industry in terms of how to help communities comply with these requirements.
Not to belabor, but
Questionable.
so we do still have a recognized budget surplus, right? I mean, that's
Technically
but
speaking.
it's not going to school. It's not going to schools, and it's not going to communities.
No.
Okay.
No.
And it's probably not
Tragic.
going to roads. It's
No.
worse. So
No.
okay.
Yep. Exactly. Well, thank you very much for
Thank you.
allowing me to speak. And if there are any questions, anytime, please.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And keep fighting the school.
Will do.
All right. I'm Amy Butters. I'm here from the school board, and I'm your substitute liaison, so I expect very good behavior. Nan and Karen, who are normally here with you, are both out of town. It is the Ferndale Schools spring break this week. So I'm just here to give you a little bit of what's going on in the schools. And first of all, I just want to draw everyone's attention to the page in this month's Ridger, which is on the back, inside back page, show it to the camera, about our Ferndale schools. And I just wanted to thank everyone behind the scenes to try to make this happen. We're hoping for it to be a regular feature in the Ridger, and I think there's a lot of really great information, so I'm not really going to cover everything that's already covered here, except one thing I will highlight. A new program that we are starting this fall, Ferndale Schools is going to be offering an infant toddler daycare, and so I wanted to just point that out specifically. It's obviously infant toddler starting when they're babies all the way up through age 2.5 or whatever. And so please be sure and check out our website for information about that new program. I'm a journalist, and so I believe in, getting the big news out there first. And so, of course, the big news in our school district right now is our superintendent, Gary Meyer, has announced that he is retiring. And so that's going to be in effect June 30th. He's been in our district for 14 years. And we really have appreciated all his hard work and his tenure, and we're going to be, working on some events to mark his time here with us. And then also the process has already begun for the board to begin looking for his replacement. And I did attend a meeting just today. We are looking for a search firm to help us with this process, and so we had some representatives of 3 search firms come and talk to our policy committee today. And so we're going to be taking that up at a special meeting on Monday. The whole board will be meeting at a special meeting this Monday at 5:30. And in which case we will be choosing one of those search firms to help us with our search. There is information on our website. On the home page, there's a button that you can click with information about our superintendent search process. So I'm not going to go into detail there, but I will let you know that we do aim to have somebody hired by the end of June. It is a very ambitious schedule. So we're keeping our fingers crossed, but from what the search firms told us today, they didn't laugh in our face. They said, yeah, I think that it will be possible. This is kind of superintendent search season, evidently. So I'm optimistic that we will be able to have somebody new come in. I encourage any one of you to please contact me, or anybody, any of the residents, to please contact me or anyone on the board if you have any questions about the search, or if you have any comments about what you would like to see in our new superintendent. We are going to be scheduling some meetings in the schools and in the community to try to get some feedback. We're going to be really hoping to get some feedback from the community about, what our new superintendent should be in terms of, the qualities of that person. So that it's exciting. It's an exciting time. Of course, I know that all of you know about, we have our brand new strategic plan. And so we're looking at it as an opportunity for somebody to come in and really help us get that strategic plan to reality. So that's our big news right now, and I'll stop with that particular item. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the great things going on in our music program, of course. Our Ferndale High School bands and orchestras all got really good high scores at their festival last month. They got, I think all the bands and all the orchestra groups in the high school got all 1s, which is the highest rating. The Ferndale High School Jazz Band also went to their festival, and they got 2 2s and a 1, so a little bit of a mixed score, but still very commendable. And they were the group that came to our women's brunch. The Pleasant Ridge Women's Club had their brunch on Saturday. They were fantastic, weren't they?
They were.
marvelous. I thought they did. The women at the brunch, I think, really appreciated that performance, and the kids came, you know, and as I said, it's spring break, and so they even came during their spring break, which is really great.
Would you give them a 1 for that performance?
Yes, I will pass that along. That'll help make up for a couple of those 2s. There's a new group called Ferndale Independent Percussion, and it's formerly known as Winterline, and it's a fancy name for the marching band, drum, and pit musicians. And they have a winter season, and our group based in Ferndale placed second in their state competition. So that was very impressive for the first time. They're a new group. There used to be a Winterline a few years ago, and then it stopped, but now it's back, and they got second at state. So we're very excited about those kids. And of course, Ferndale for the 4th year in a row was named Best Community for Music Education by an organization called NAM, which stands for National Association for Music Merchants. And this is the 4th year, like I said, and there's 376 districts across the country who get this distinction. And so it's fairly limited in terms of who gets this recognition. So we're very happy about that. University High School, I wanted to just highlight the DECA team over there. DECA, I should know what that stands for. Maybe. Thank
education.
You. Thank you.
Which is business.
It's a business. It's business and marketing. It's a club. It's an extracurricular activity that these kids do to learn more about careers in marketing and business. And this group over at UHS, there's 5 kids that are going to the International Career Conference in Atlanta in May. So they have reached that level of competition in their activity. So I wanted to give some recognition to them. And then also I wanted to just put a plug in for something at the high school, at Ferndale High School. It's called the Reality Store. And I don't know if anyone here has ever heard about this, but this is something that they've done a few years now. It's for high school juniors at Ferndale High School, and it's in the morning on April 17th. And I'm letting you know this is an opportunity for anyone who would maybe be interested in volunteering that morning. What it is it's basically the game of life. And the kids go through different stations, and they're given a certain amount of money, and then they get to decide a job, and they get to decide a career path, or, how much education they want, and then they have to spend a certain amount of money, and then they just go through, and then they have kids, and then at the end most of them are just completely broke. So it's real life.
It's real life.
So it's a great way for people from the community to come in and work with these kids and to try to sort of pass along our knowledge, but also just to kind of, participate in an activity that, there's lots of things that they learn in school, but sometimes some real practical things that it's not always passed along. So let me know. Please get in touch with me if you're interested. I'll let you know. Let's see, April 17th. It's in the morning, 8 to 12:30.
And what do the volunteers get to do?
Well, I haven't actually been there myself, so I can't tell you exactly, although my sense is that you're assigned to a different station. So you're assigned to, let's just say, the utilities. So they have to come to your table and pay utilities, or taxes or whatever. Maybe there's a hospital where you go and have your baby, or, those kinds of things. So I think you could handle it, Mayor.
I don't want to embarrass myself.
Amy, do we have to not be broke to volunteer? That would be a good example.
I don't think there's any requirements.
Okay.
So that's coming up April 17th. So please feel free to get in touch with me if you're interested in that. I think there might be a note about that on the website too. I'm pretty sure there was a note in the fan out. I'm thinking that a lot of you probably get that. So there's more information about that. Okay, just a couple of other things. Relay for Life. Nan was telling me that, did you have some questions about Relay for Life last time, or were you asking her some?
I was just hoping that you might give a summary of that and...
Okay. Relay for Life is an event that is held at the Ferndale High School track. The date this year is June 14th. This is a cancer fundraiser. I imagine a lot of you are familiar with it. It's one of those kinds of things where you are on a team. There's different teams, and they set up all around the track. There's different tents, and they have different stations. I know there's one parent group that last year I think they built. They get pretty elaborate. I think it was a lighthouse. They built a lighthouse. There's a theme. I think this year's theme is, I want to say superheroes. So each team picks a superhero, and then they have things that they sell. They have, different booths sell food. Some sell homemade craft items. It's a relay, so it's technically, somebody's walking on the track. It's a 24-hour event. In the evening, they have lots of really very touching candle-lit, tributes to cancer victims and cancer survivors. This is not a district event technically, however, it does take place at Ferndale High School, and there are a lot of groups throughout the district who have created teams. So there's a team from, I think, each of the school buildings. The teachers get together and organize teams. There's different parent groups that organize parent and student groups that organize teams. And it's a year-long thing. A lot of the teams fundraise throughout the year, but this is sort of the main event. And so that's going to be happening June 14th, 15th.
Is there someone that's keeping track of the schedule to make sure that every bit of time is covered? Because you want to have someone on the track at all times, right?
Yeah, I think it's up to the individual teams to kind of keep track of that, and they have different parts throughout the event to sort of encourage more participation in the laps. Like I'm trying to think of some of the things they would do. They dress up in costume. They have a specific time for survivors to walk around the track. There are some groups that actually do camp out there, and they pitch a tent and they stay the whole night. It's a wide range of participation, and it's not just the school. There's lots of other groups within our community that have teams that participate too. So it's a great community event.
One last question.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not on a team, is there a way to participate? You can just show up and walk?
Yes, you can just show up and you can just buy everything at all their booths.
That's easy.
They do have entertainment. So I think if you do a Relay for Life, Google search Ferndale or whatever, I'm sure there's a site. I don't have that off the top of my head, but they have different bands that come in. Some of the students come and perform. Usually they have a student group that does the national anthem in the beginning. It's a wide variety of activities. So if you're not on a team, it's easy to just go and just hang out for a while, or there's lots of people that are on teams that will come up to you and say, would you like to sponsor my team? So there's lots of ways to and one thing that I've done in the past, speaking of teachers, there's a lot of teachers that participate, and so at the end of the year, a lot of families like to give gifts to their teachers, and there's been times when I've just written a check to the teachers' Relay for Life team, because that is something that hits close to home for a lot of our teachers. So it's just there's so many different ways to participate. You can be on a team, you can support many teams. So be careful that you might be asked to be a team.
You're saying we have to pick our superhero.
Oh, there you go. I like the way you think.
That's all right.
All right, so one last thing I just want to say, our next board meeting, of course I said this Monday is a special board meeting that we're meeting just briefly at 5:30 to consider the search firms and to specifically hire one search firm. That's this Monday. And then our next full board meeting will be April 21st, Monday, April 21st at 7 o'clock. And of course, at any point, please come to our website if you're interested in enrolling, or if you know anyone who is interested in enrolling. We are enrolling at all the time. You can go to our website, or I can give you the phone number. It's 248-586-8686, and there's never a bad time to enroll at Ferndale Schools. Any other questions?
Did well in the substitute.
Thank you. No spitballs. I appreciate it.
Amy, I did go to the percussion event,
Yes.
and that was it was a ton of fun.
The
Those
kids
were
did great. Yes, I got to go to the percussion, the Winterline kids. They are Ferndale kids, and then there's a few kids from some other districts too. So it's again a really cool thing where it brings people together. But luckily, I was so happy. Their show lasts, I don't know what the time limit is, but it's a relatively short show. So they did it twice for us. So I was so happy about that, because you can't always see everything you want to see. So they said, you know what, we're going to do it again. And so they did it again. And it's really cool. It's something that you have to see in person.
Yeah.
It doesn't work on YouTube. I have tried, I've watched it on YouTube, and it's not nearly the same. If you're there in person to really hear those drums and to see how those kids get so into it, it's so cool. So if you ever get a chance to go see one of those Winterline performances, I'll be sure and let you know when they are next year.
Thanks.
Okay? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Gary.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I'm Gary McGilvery, County Commissioner for Pleasant Ridge. The mayor sent me an email and asked me to come, so I'm here. I planned on coming anyway, just so you know.
That feels so powerful.
And I apologize for not getting to as many of your meetings, but I do cover 4 cities, and sometimes that's tough to do, along with all my committee assignments. So I've given each of you one of my cards. It's got my cell phone number on it. Feel free to call me at any time. Well, I shouldn't say any time, but just about any time. A couple of things that I included in the packets that I gave you. The first one is spring cleanup that I do every year. This is the 4th annual one at the Red Oaks Nature Center, which is over on 13 Mile between John R. and DeQuinder. We do it as a way just to kind of help out, and we rake up around the building and do a little bit of everything. This year we have a group that's going to be putting in a deck at the same time, and so last year we had over 100 people there. We provide continental breakfast and lunch. Starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we're there until we get done. So if you get a chance, stop by. It doesn't have to be for the whole day. You can stop by for just a couple hours or whatever. The second one that I gave you is for the marshmallow drop that's going on at Catalpa Oaks, which is at Catalpa and Greenfield.
That's great.
That'll be on Friday, Good Friday, April 18th. It starts at 10 o'clock sharp. So, and there's always a big crowd, so if any of your residents would like to come, they should try to get there early, because parking is sometimes limited over there. What it is they have, I think it's 3 different age groups, and they drop marshmallows out of a helicopter, and the kids run over into this open field and grab the marshmallow, trade it in for some kind of a Easter gift of some kind. I don't know if it's candy or what, but so it's a good time. I've gone for the last 3 years, and it's just great watching those little kids running around out there. So. And the last packet that I gave you, the mayor had a question regarding the direct water and sewer negotiations that have been happening for quite some time now. I included a packet that I just received yesterday, actually. It's done by Deputy County Executive Robert Dadow. He and the county executive's team, along with Jim Nash, the Water Resource Commissioner, has been meeting, as you probably read in the paper, since last June, I think it was, negotiating, trying to come up with some kind of a deal to have a regional water board. They wanted a lot of money to do it. This rough figure is $47 million for the 3 counties per year for 40 years, which comes to about $9 billion. The main reason is they wanted to pay off their their pensions in their bankruptcy. So it wasn't a good deal for the counties, obviously, not to mention all the things that mismanagement that's gone on there for so many years. 40% of the people in Detroit don't pay a water bill, so who's paying for it? It's most of us out here in the suburbs that are paying for it. So in the information, it talks about backstopping. They weren't willing to come up with a way to offset the losses. And most of the losses were down in Detroit. So the negotiations kind of come to a screeching halt. The emergency manager has now said they're going to go out for bids and try to get a company that will buy the system. It's Mr. Dadow's thoughts is that it'd be almost impossible to do for a company to buy it, especially if they want that kind of money. So he doesn't see that happening. So there's hope that we can still negotiate further and maybe come to some kind of terms where we could have a regional water board. On the other hand, we've decided that we can't just sit back and wait and see what happens. So the Board of Commissioners will be voting next week to appropriate $3 million to do an extensive feasibility study, search, whatever you want to call it, to look at all the alternatives, not just a new water facility, new sewer facility, but maybe a combination of the two somehow, or with other counties, meeting with Genesee, Macomb, and Wayne, and see if we can do something that way. So that's kind of where it's at this point. It's a slow process, as you all know, and but do expect your water rates to go up this year. They're going to go up. We know that. They're predicting 4%. Oakland County is predicting probably anywhere from 6 up to 10%, and probably more than that. Especially if they get a private company to take it over, your water bills could go sky high. So it's a commodity we have to have, and we just have to figure out a way to try to do it as reasonably as possible. So, do you have any questions?
I was reading something about cell phone tracking. What do you guys?
I don't know anything
Okay.
about it.
All right.
I got
I need to look
the
more into
memo.
that.
I did get an email today from, and in the email it said that Under Sheriff Mike McCabe said that that it's not a problem, that they're not tracking phones at the county level. So, who knows? Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other governmental reports? All right. Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is consideration of city commission liaison reports. If you will give me a moment just to kind of kick it off. I just wanted to bring people up to date on the city manager search process. Amy said it was superintendent search time, or what did you say? It was search season, right? So this is city manager search season. We have finalized, we have come up with our final 5 candidates who we will be interviewing on Saturday. Just to give you kind of a real brief first hit at who the final candidates are. We're doing interviews on Saturday afternoon, as was said. Friday night, we're going to have a meet and greet. So Friday night at 7 o'clock at Four Ridge. We're inviting the community at large to come and meet the 5 candidates. They will all be there. We'll kind of kick it off around 7 with each one giving a very brief introduction, no formal presentations, no PowerPoints, nothing like that. But just saying a few words about themselves, and then we want it to be very informal and for people to be able to talk to them. Feel free to talk to each one, get to know them as much as you can in that 2-hour space of time. But then on Saturday at 1 o'clock, we will start a series of interviews. And the order, so we'll be doing them on the hour, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The first interview will be Richard Haberman, who is now presently the city manager for Fraser and was previously city manager in Clawson. Second, at 2 o'clock, we'll be talking to James Brookman. Jim is a Pleasant Ridge resident. He is now manager of planning for Rochester Hills and was for 9 years prior principal planner with McKenna Associates, private planning firm. Number 3, at 3 o'clock will be David Fleischer, who was previously the West Bloomfield supervisor, also finance director for Pontiac, and presently works for the U.S. Department of Treasury. Number 4 is someone we don't know. At 4 o'clock is Scott Peterzak. I think everybody knows who Scott Peterzak, acting city manager for Pleasant Ridge. And the 5th interview at 5 o'clock will be with David Murphy, who is presently the interim village administrator in Franklin, taking over that position from Amy Sullivan, who just took the job in Huntington Woods as city manager. And formerly he was the city manager for South Lyon. So should be a real interesting interview session, 5 very interesting people, and we hope that the community will come out in great numbers on Friday night and get to meet them. So just wanted to update people, and we will be putting on the city's website each of the resumes for each of the 5 candidates so people can get a feel for what their background is and get a little bit of a flavor of who the people are, so that when they come and talk to them Friday or come to the interviews on Saturday, they will have that background. Is there anything else you want to add?
And then Saturday is here
Saturday
at
is
City
here.
Hall?
Saturday will be right here in City Hall. And again, open to the public. We invite everybody to come and sit and listen to the interviews.
We should have those up on the website by noon tomorrow.
Okay,
Great.
there you go. Okay. First report, Commissioner Krzyjak, Recreation Commission.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a brief review of our March 26th meeting. We had an extensive discussion regarding the upcoming pool season, specifically issues around the snack bar. It will be an ongoing conversation. Scott talked about maybe speaking with the vendor about adjusting some menu items. But if there's any residents who this is an issue, a good time to show up would be the next recreation meeting to discuss pool issues specifically related to the snack bar. We also had an interesting conversation about arts in the community. Last year we had a fabulous program with the DIA Inside Out program, and there was some reference to an arts council that we had in the city many years ago, and there was some talk about maybe bringing aspects of that back to highlight some Pleasant Ridge residents, independent of the Thanksgiving market, which obviously is a showcase for local artists in the holiday season. But we would like to investigate ways we can incorporate local artists into exposure year-round. So that's an interesting conversation that we will continue. Some immediate events. This Saturday, April 12th, will be the Pancake Breakfast, and it's always a fabulous time. I don't know if we can match the commissioner's helicopter. We don't necessarily have the budget for the helicopter.
We can supply marshmallows and just toss it up.
But I know all 3 of my children have always enjoyed the Pancake Breakfast and the Egg Hunt, and I appreciate Scott and Bridget and everyone who's put time into making that a memorable event every year. It'll be bittersweet this year. My oldest will be 12. I think he's aged out after this year.
I'm not a millennial anymore for that.
I think you cut it off at 12, right?
12 was
I think because after that things get a little
Turned
rough.
into a football player.
Right. But for any new residents with small children, it's always a fantastic event. The breakfast will begin at 10 with the Egg Hunt at 11:30, and by 11:30 it's not 11:32, because if you show up at 11:32 there's not going to be anything left. So make sure you put that on the calendar if you're interested in attending that event. We have soccer starting up, our soccer season, and I want to ask you, Scott, about baseball sign up, is that still open?
It is still open, yeah. We have, they started a while back when soccer did, but it's so early, people
Right.
don't realize it. But baseball season is still going on. Actually, the information was rerun in the Ridger this time. So
Okay, great.
you can look for those information. T-ball, coach pitch, minor league, and then major league, and they all have their ages spelled out. So
Okay, great. And that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
something real quick.
Yeah.
When you say about the helicopter drop, I always tell this story. The marshmallow drops came about because of a reason. The Detroit Parks and Recreation Department had a helicopter drop, and they filled with plastic eggs.
I remember
The
this.
front of the Detroit News the next morning was a little kid, like probably about 5 years old, like with this freeze in his face with this egg hitting him right on top of the head with a plastic egg, and he's like, it's just like the craziest picture. I mean, the photographer had it. I mean, it was like right on his head, and that's why they drop marshmallows now.
It's like the WKRP turkey.
It's always, I always tell every Easter I think about the picture of the little kid and feel so bad for him, but it was it's like a Pulitzer Prize of the egg falling on the kid's head.
Yeah, baby chicken. Luckily, marshmallows do seem better,
Right.
safer.
After that, I just wanted to add that we've moved Scott's interview back to 4 o'clock so that he can do the pancakes, he can do the Easter egg hunt, he can go home, take a rest. So
Smell like pancake batter. I don't think you ever get the smell out that day.
we told him, Bridget told him he could stay away, but
Yeah,
he
he
won't,
can't.
so he refused. Okay. Commissioner Foreman, Ferndale Schools, and anything else?
Yes, I have a few updates, of course, regarding Ferndale School District. I was able to cross a few of these off. Thank you, Amy. The first one is something that occurred on March 15th. That was a FEF dinner. FEF stands for Ferndale Education Foundation. They held their annual fundraising dinner, and this year's theme was the Roaring Twenties, and it was a lot of fun. I was able to recycle my outfit from last year's auction. It was great. Most of the outfit, anyway. So we had guests dressing up in the 20s garb. There was great musical entertainment from the Ferndale High School Jazz Band, dancing performances from CASA students, and a performance from the cast of the FHS Spring Musical, The Early Modern Millie. From what I have here, it's over 200 people attended, and it raised about $15,000. So pretty good event, very successful. For the benefit of those that may not be familiar with FEF, FEF grants enable educators to provide equipment that enhances the learning experience. It increases exposure to the arts, history, and great literature. A big thank you to all the Pleasant Ridge residents that helped support, donate, and give their time to this great event. It really was a success, and we had a great time. Speaking of Millie, late last month, the high school put on, of course, their annual musical. My son Nicholas and I saw the show on its closing night, and it was completely awesome. I don't know how many of you have seen the show or any Ferndale High School musicals. My socks were knocked off. It was amazing. The singing, dancing, music, all I can really say about it now is just wow. It was my first time attending one of their musicals, and I was impressed. I'll be back. It was really something far beyond what I would expect from any high school musical. And hats off to everyone involved in it. Great job. The reality store, I just have one thing to add to that. Amy touched on. I have a phone number that you could use. You can contact Charlotte Oliver at 248-688-7099 or email her at coliver@ferndaleschools.org if you'd like to volunteer for this event. Next, there's a survey request, and this is not your typical survey where people using the schools should be asked to participate. This is if you're not using the Ferndale School District and you are not a member of the staff. The Office of Instruction would like your help in complying with the Ferndale Schools improvement process. It should only take a few minutes to complete this community survey, and the questions are multiple choice and open-ended. Your responses will be completely confidential. If you have any questions about the survey, please call the instruction office at 248-586-8657. I won't read the link here. You can get it by calling the office. What else? Spring break is on. Many residents away for wonderful vacations, of course. Sadly, classes resume on the 14th of April, this coming Monday. Really quick, upcoming events between now and our next commission meeting. I'll go through them quickly. You can find the rest of them on the district website, ferndaleschools.org. Under the schools menu, there's a link to the district calendar. As Amy touched on, the 14th classes resume. There's a meeting at 5:30 that will discuss the superintendent search. And then at 7, there's an external relations committee meeting, so that's a busy day. Both these meetings will take place at the Harding Administration Building. On the 16th at 7 p.m. in the Ferndale High School auditorium, there'll be a parent meeting regarding the superintendent search, so you can ask questions and get information. On the 21st at 7 p.m. is the regular school board meeting, as Amy touched on, also at Harding. 22nd from 6 to 8 p.m. is Roosevelt Family Night at the Movies. 23rd, 7 p.m. in the FHS auditorium, it's a community meeting regarding the superintendent search, so another informational session on that. 24th between 6:30 and 8 is the JFK Volunteer Appreciation Tea at JFK Elementary. 29th from 6 to 7 p.m. This is a good one for any parents that have a kindergartner starting in the fall. It's the incoming kindergarten parent information night. It's essentially an orientation for parents just to get you used to the idea of your child going to kindergarten and what you can expect from the school. Roosevelt and Coolidge will have theirs in May, so I'll mention those next month. On the 30th from 6 to 7 p.m. will be Ferndale Youth Assistance, 34th Annual Youth Recognition Award Ceremony, and this will take place at Coolidge, from 6 to 7 p.m. Nearing the end. Friday, May 2nd is the FHS prom, so high schoolers, there's still time to find a date. May 5th, 7 p.m., the External Relations Committee will meet again at Harding. So again, you can find more information at ferndaleschools.org. That's all for me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Perry, Planning and DDA.
Yes, well, I'll start out with transit. The Woodward Transit Alternatives Analysis Committee met in March, and the 3 key topics that from the meeting that I really took away were, there was a gentleman who is part of the Parsons Brinkerhoff team who listened to the communities around us that all really have a concern with us connecting over 696 and being able to access transit up at the zoo and just being able to have a more walkable and bikeable solution for that. And he really suggested that we work on a parallel plan to the project of, if it's capping, if it's just extending some of the different walkways and things like that to make them a lot safer. He said it's too large of a cost project to really just add on to the transit project itself. So it's important to have it as a separate parallel project. And the exciting thing is, the communities like Ferndale and Berkeley and Huntington Woods and Royal Oak all really stepped up, and they're like, we all want to be a part of that. And so they feel a regional endeavor with that. And I would think the zoo would want to be a part of that and everything as well. So that's something that we need to, and I know you with the mayor's committee have been talking about different efforts for these Woodward communities, and so it's a great way to bring planning committee commissioners together with a whole effort like this. On top of that, like I was saying, it reinforced sort of that whole regional planning effort. Then also, one of the things they really want to try and figure out is a park and ride for that area. And it's hard because we just there's no land. And, I keep emphasizing and will always emphasize that the zoo needs a really large parking deck. And so I don't know if it can work only in the off months would it really work as, supplemental to some sort of a park and ride as well. But those are all really good, interesting, at least discussions that people are trying to move forward. The DDA met this week, or this month, I don't remember what the date was, but March 24th. And they are working on the concerts in the park. The dates for the concerts this year are going to be July 30th and September 17th. So mark your calendars. Then they're also working on the Business and Marketing Development Committee. And they are putting together a plan to reach out to the different businesses in our DDA, in our downtown. And what they want to do is they're planning to do a meet and greet to try and find out what the property owners and business owners are interested in, what they want from the city and their DDA. And then and their ideas on improving the downtown. Then the Planning Commission also met on the 24th, and they met on the 20th, before that, where they were working on the Pleasant Ridge Master Plan, and they had a meeting about the goals and objectives. And it was a really great workshop, and the summary that Leah from Beckett and Rader helped put together, it is a really great document. And it will be up on theridger.org, but it really combines all of these efforts that people, as you are all reaching out and coming to the visioning workshops and the taking the citywide surveys, and when you come forward to planning and what the Planning Commission talks about, all this information is in there and captured, and it's great, and it's in a really wonderful, digestible document. And it talks about some of the key goals and objectives for the city that have been identified are creating a vibrant, diverse, mixed-use, mixed-density district along Woodward Avenue. And then there are strategies that are very key steps for them to take moving forward and to really keep exploring. The second one is expand transportation options within the city that include a walkable, bikeable Woodward Avenue and take advantage of regional transportation changes. There's also the preserve the historic, stable, attractive neighborhoods of Pleasant Ridge. Provide high-quality recreation programs and facilities within the city limits. I mean, all of those are things that we hear over and over again are really key, important things that residents, regardless of age or what area they live in, everybody sort of wants a lot of these same initiatives. So it was really great to be a part of that workshop and to see this document. So it'll be up on theridger.org.
Yeah, they're going to get it up. I emailed Leah about it today.
That's great. It's a really neat.
Yeah, it's a great document. The best part about it when we had the workshop is I think there were 7 or 8 different things that were planned out, and then all of a sudden we're like, well, this kind of fits with this.
Yeah.
And they all, everything's intertwined. That's and that when you have that happen, it really shows that everybody's like on the same page because these things just come together, and we went down from having like these 8 little things to 3 to 4 really big focused items that I think are right on. It's right from the survey, right from the
They really
section,
are.
things
And then
that
we
we
were
could,
being able to
talking about.
twist some of those and put them into the strategies.
yeah, and then
How do they carry these out? It was very...
fiscal stability. You can fit in all those.
Yes.
It's like those are the type of things. So it's it was a great session. I was really encouraged by it. So
It was great. And so we are on the timeline with the master plan. Is right now it's with the Planning Commission subcommittee for the master plan, and it will be there. They will be analyzing this document and looking at land use and zoning planning and things like that through May. And then the Planning Commission itself will actually look at the draft. And are they voting on it in June to move it forward to the city commission?
Yeah, they will vote on a draft document that will be part of the public comment period.
Okay.
So with the city master plan, I think it's 63-day public comment, where the recreation one was a 31 days.
Okay.
So there's a longer period because it's a different kind of document. So
they bring it to the city commission, it looks like in July,
mhm.
and then the formal hearing will be in September for that.
Yep. So July, this starts 63 days.
Okay.
September, public hearing, and then the adoption, I think, can happen in November.
November,
Yep.
yeah. So it'll be great, so stay tuned and check out theridger.org because there's some really interesting documents on there. Thanks.
I just wanted to interrupt just to recognize the work that Ann has done on 696 Woodward and pushing this message constantly and going to every meeting wherever it's being held, and keeping Pleasant Ridge in the forefront of all these discussions, because now all of a sudden it is the other communities are starting to come together. The Woodward Avenue Action Association is now talking about sponsoring a charrette with the zoo.
Oh, yeah.
Really talking about the feasibility of we've got to do something, whether it's capping or somehow we've got to get this. How do we work with the zoo as it's starting to expand? The zoo has already offered, not money, but they've offered their facilities and food and everything else. And we've got an idea on a planner, and Deb Shutt is trying to get some other funding together to put on a charrette. I also was talking to Marie Donegan today, who you probably know, Helen, from her past work. And she said 4 years ago she was pushing an aerial that showed 696 in Woodward capped. So she's going to actually bring it.
Oh,
Bring it
great.
to me and
Oh,
show it.
nice.
We're going to meet with her too, because she's now working with the Harriet Tubman Center in Detroit, but also about regional transit.
Oh, that's
And
great.
people are starting to see this, instead of, they see all the plans, but they're starting to see this as so critical. What do we do in this area, and how is it going to feed into connecting Pleasant Ridge with Royal Oak, Huntington Woods, and going forward? So
That's exciting.
yeah. So there's a lot of things that seem to be playing out, but
It is really
it's
cool.
been you and
Wow. Thank
and
you.
Scott going to meetings, but Ann being everywhere at all times.
Well,
How she does it, I
The
don't
nice,
know.
the nice part about that is, I think everybody was a little disappointed when we got the report, and
right.
Right.
It's like somebody ripped out 5 pages of the 696 interchange, and everyone was
It
looking.
just
So
skipped.
at the last planning commission meeting, the planning commission decided to form a little subcommittee that includes Ann, the mayor, and our planner from Beck and Rader, and a couple of planning commissioners to kind of come up with our own idea for this 696 interchange, because there's nothing else out there. So we said,
Right.
hey, if we can, even if we didn't give them, I always say the best ideas come sketched out on a napkin.
Yeah.
Because anything is better than what is out there right now. So
Right.
I think we can come up with some kind of at least idea of what we're
Yeah.
thinking about, and
Well, that's what's
forward, so
exciting.
fun.
Like one of the planning commissioners, Michael DeCoster, has that Facebook
Mm-hmm.
page talking about capping 696. That was his idea before anybody else was really discussing how to solve it. So it's nice because everybody is really trying to get is realizing this is something we need to address.
And even if it doesn't turn into a cap, that might be
Right.
the catalyst for another discussion. That is something
Right.
smaller, but
There has to be something.
something
Yes.
is done, and I think
At least.
that's. I think we'll be on the forefront of that. So it's an exciting time for transit.
It is exciting. Thank you.
Commissioner Scott, Historical Commission and Citizens Advisory.
Yes, a couple of quick updates for the Historical Commission. George Lincoln will be giving a great presentation on arts and crafts tile in Pleasant Ridge, and that's on April 28th. And set to mark that date that evening to participate in that. And I believe it's at the community center, correct? And also the Home and Garden Tour is scheduled for June 7th, but before that, the Historical Commission is putting together their booklet for the Home and Garden Tour.
Okay.
And there's advertising that's available in that booklet. And Amy, I'm not sure that I caught who they should contact for the advertising.
Aaron Schneiderman. They
So,
can contact the city offices, and then we'll get in contact with Aaron.
So if you have a local business in Pleasant Ridge, or if you'd like to advertise in the book, it's a great opportunity to get your products advertised in addition to seeing the great homes in Pleasant Ridge. And that's June 7th. I think their deadline for the booklet submissions is May 1st, but they'd like to get all that information in well before that. And they'll be interviewing the homeowners before that. So by all means, feel free to advertise in that. And then the museum will be open on April 19th. So if you've not had an opportunity to see our museum, hop on over on the 19th to check it out. The next one is the Citizens Advisory Committee, and that's been going actually really good. We're halfway through the process now. We've really loaded up with a lot of information. So we planned 8 meetings, we've had 4. The last one was on the 27th, and I think we've gotten through all of our packets of information. We've got maybe a half hour of time at our next meeting to discuss one final bit of information so that everyone's armed and ready to start thinking about how the committee would like to see the budget organized and what trade-offs and things can be made in the budget. So that's going to become a very interesting and insightful conversation, or series of conversations. And we have one of our members for the Citizens Advisory. Our chair. Here to provide
Elected
some
chair.
additional information. So Jane Mikulski.
Well, thank you very much, Commissioner. And the mayor had asked that I be here tonight and just to give an informal report. And First of all, let me say the committee is a very, very good committee. Before we were ever selected, there were comments on Facebook about how can this be representative, and there were a number of concerns about it at that point. But quite frankly, it's a very representative committee. As represented, I mean, we can't control for every factor, let's be honest. But we have citizens who have lived here a good number of years, down to people who have been here 3 years. One of the members lives in the community, but also she and her husband have a business in the community, so they represent a little different group. Some of us are retired. We have a school teacher on the group, a banker on the group. It's just a very good group of people who not only represent the kinds or the people who are living here, but even represent the streets. I think there are only 2 streets that don't have their own representative, but when you realize the size of Pleasant Ridge, if you can't walk around the corner and talk to your neighbor, everyone should be able to have access to a committee member, and should at the time we have finished the report feel that it is representative. As Brett had said, we've spent 4 meetings going over material, and part of it is because we really didn't know each other. Everyone on that committee at some time or another has said, I know one person on the committee. So obviously it's not a clique of any kind. And in order to make decisions, particularly the kind of decisions that we want to, which are by consensus, there has to be some knowledge of one another, some feel of safety, some feeling of trust. And we've spent some time being very open about questions, trying to get information back immediately. Scott and Amy both have just been wonderful for posting information, getting all of it back or out there to us. It's also available to anyone in the community, and I have found that I have told that to a number of people, that everything we're looking at is out there. So when we make our recommendations, anybody in the community will be able to say, well, wait a minute, that's my question, but they had all that information. They did look at it, and that's the kind of validity that we want to have and that we're working toward. I find it a little frustrating sitting here tonight and hearing about legislation and cutbacks on highways and look out what happens with revenue sharing and water bills and water systems and capping 696. Because folks, the bottom line in our committee and the bottom line for all of us in this community and in this county and in this state is that we are having a hard time maintaining what we have. That we are maintaining, we're living in a wonderful place, but it's not going to go on forever. And just as the recession came in, everyone on that committee realizes that our property values dropped. We didn't bring in, and we did better than most any other community in this county. But the point is, we still suffered lost revenue. Money that we had put away in funds for later use, we had to borrow from for ourselves to keep at this minimum level. And then, in addition, the money that we had wasn't earning any interest. And it's no different from your homes, that you can maintain your home, the roof may leak, and you can use a bucket. The front stair may separate from your porch, and you put a note for the mailman to go to the side door. But you can only do that so long. And at some point, it is more than maintaining, and that's where our community is. We're at a point where it's more than maintaining, because we have a pool that needs work, and yes, we have a special fund for that pool. But we put off for 5 years some work on the pool, because just like a roof that leaks and has a bucket, we could still use the pool. It was not unsafe, but we've got to start addressing some of those things. We've got to start addressing with probably, and I'm only saying this, the committee for myself, the committee has not said it, but we are beginning to see that just as Commissioner Perry mentioned, every survey, and one of the things we did was to go over the surveys. I asked that the members of our committee read all of the survey comments. Everyone wants the community to be Pleasant Ridge. And in order to do that, we're probably going to come back with a recommendation, I would guess, for some sort of revenue, or we're going to be cutting a great deal. That's the only way that it's probably going to work. So it isn't insurmountable by any manner of means, and we've got good people working on it. And some of us had learning curves that were straight up because we haven't done municipal budgeting. And other people fortunately came in as resources. And John Zeck has been a very fine resource to us. And certainly Brett has been a wonderful resource. If nothing else, he sits there and will smile at me. So, but we will have a plan for you. I hope that we are able to do the very ambitious thing that you have asked of us. I think that everybody is willing to put as much work as it takes, and I hope too that when it's presented that you will feel that it's worthwhile and that it really does consider all of the information that's been gathered. And it isn't just about keeping Pleasant Ridge like it is today, but ensuring that no matter what kind of limitations the state may be either forced or desired to pass on to us, whatever kind of, well, governmental, I'm not going to point at any group in the state, governmental limitations exist. And consequently, what we need to do is anticipate what may happen and plan accordingly. So I thank you for the opportunity. It's quite exciting, and I've read more about Pleasant Ridge than I ever thought I would.
And I will say what's impressed me is how quickly everyone has absorbed this volume of information.
Yes.
Because, I mean, this started, 2 months ago, and you've literally absorbed the budget and other details about the city in almost no time at all. It's really amazing.
It is. Specifically, we have looked at the budget. We've gone practically line item through that budget. Scott took us through all of that. We have looked at contracts that we have. We have had discussions about water. We have had discussions about administrative fees and costs. We have looked at more data than most anyone other than our mayor can imagine, because you made your living looking at it, but the rest of us stumbled along. But it's been good, and people are faithful to the task. I had someone recently ask me, well, are people coming to the meetings? And I said, you mean committee members? Well, yeah, are people really coming to those? I said, well, yes. We work for 2 hours each time, and we have homework. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
I would thank you.
I'll make a quick advertisement for our city website.
Yes.
And if you look down through the link, you'll see a Citizens Advisory Committee link where you can find all of the information about the Citizens Advisory Committee and the meeting minutes from there. Anything that is discussed in the meeting will be found on that link. And of course, we welcome everyone from Pleasant or from wherever just to check it out to see the process that we're going through. It's really, really nice.
I just wanted to thank you. Formally,
Yes,
thank
thank
you
you.
and the other
Thank you.
14 members, and just, it's really, going as an observer, it's been tremendous to see the seriousness that everybody has taken the task.
It's
And the
our
way
home.
people-
It's our
Yeah,
community,
exactly.
and that's so evident. And it's just amazing that it's really almost a labor of love, though a painful labor of love.
Well, and just to reinforce the fact that when we selected and all the Facebook comments and everything, none of us knew all 15. We knew that this was a very diverse group. We tried to do that, and it really has proven to be that way. And I think we're pretty proud of our selections too. But thank you for taking on that task of keeping these people in line, because you do a heck of a job.
You are the definition of a
She is
fearless
the
leader.
taskmaster. Okay, it's time to move on. We could use you in these meetings. We could get done a lot faster. All right.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
The next item is public discussion, items not on the agenda. Oh, okay.
I'm back. One quick thing relating to the Ferndale schools, talking about the reality workshop and the game that'll be done. Any one of you would probably enjoy doing it, because part of it is, as a person pays a bill or as a student decides to buy something, your role is as a mentor. Well, now, how much is that going to cost? Have you planned that in your monthly budget? What about interest rates? How are they compounded? You don't have to go that far, but you ask questions to try to stimulate thinking about what happens every time you spend money, just like municipal budgeting. Every time you spend money, you've got to be sure you have the resources out here as well. So it's a wonderful game, and the kids thoroughly enjoy it. And it's really experiential learning at its best. So do give that a try. Second thing, DECA is a international activity that the that the high school is going to be doing. It's very, very selective. Students have to do presentations for products in front of judges. They are taught how to dress, how to speak, how to present. They also have to take tests regarding retailing, and again, getting into all the monetary things in publications and advertising. Know your audience, know your product, and all those things. It's very demanding activity, and it's tough competition, and there are schools that work at it practically year-round, because once you get your deck of kids together, you really hope they'll do well. So it's quite a feather in their cap, and I just wanted to add that, having been familiar with it. So again, sign up.
Jane, I'll pay you later.
There's a superintendent slot open. Is there any other public discussion? Rob, nothing?
No endorsement?
We kind of count on Rob. Any restaurant?
I can start to do community endorsement.
Yes.
It's not necessary. It's okay. No. Your time is up. Okay.
Move along.
The next item is consideration of the following consent agenda. Proclamation recognizing the month of April as Fair Housing Month. Resolution recognizing the month of April as Child Abuse Prevention and Awareness Month. And a resolution recognizing the week of April 6, 2014 as Severe Weather Awareness Week.
Yeah, no, these are just three routine items that we have on the agenda for tonight. So.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Mayor, I move the consent agenda be approved as recommended.
Is there a second?
Second.
May we take a vote?
Commissioner Foreman?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes, motion carries. The next item is public hearing, solicitation of public comments to rescind certain ordinances related to Chapter 10 Animals of the Pleasant Ridge City Code. With this, I open the public hearing. Okay, hearing nothing, I close the public hearing. Probably my favorite part of this. The next item is consideration of the ordinance to rescind certain ordinances related to Chapter 10, Animals of the Pleasant Ridge City Code.
Yes, we discussed this a little bit last month, but this item's on the agenda, so we are able to use Oakland County Animal Control as the animal control provider for the city of Pleasant Ridge. Currently, we really do not have any way to provide animal control services from the city, and when I say provide, it is to be able to house an animal that we pick up in a licensed environment and be able to care for the animal and the proper care that they need. If we were to pick up an animal that was, you know, sick or had something wrong with them, we don't really have the ability to do that. We'd have to take them to a veterinarian office and go through that. Where is if the county, you know, our officers right now would be able to go pick up an animal, we'd be able to call the county and they can take them up to the animal shelter there. They have licensed veterinarians there. They have the ability to care for the animal in the proper way. So I've invited Sergeant Nowak to the meeting tonight to kind of have the police perspective on it, and I've talked with all the officers about it, and they are 100% behind this, being able to have the Oakland County Animal Shelter and be able to call them to be able to handle these kind of items. I always go back to, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, and for some reason people still remember seeing me on the news from when we had the coyote roaming the streets. And when we went to the animal shelter, they said, they introduced us to a couple of the officers, and they said, Pleasant Ridge is hoping to come on board. And they said, we're not coming to pick up any coyotes like that. So that seems to be the one thing. But, you know, that's the type of thing where we'd be able to call the county and they can handle the type of situations like that. So, I don't know, Kevin, if you wanted to say anything on behalf of the police, or if the commission wanted to hear from the officers. I think it's.
I mean, if anybody has questions, I tried to prepare some data. Those who don't know me, Kevin Nowak. Tried to prepare some data in case you had some questions or whatever. Having been in law enforcement a long time, 34 years now, I have the ability to deal with a lot of animal problems. Every city, every agency has the same unique problems that Scott discussed. The Department of Agriculture was just here actually about a month ago and brought over a whole new list of guidelines and things that no city falls in line with. Mostly with diseases and stuff, with the uptake of rabies and canine brucellosis, if I'm pronouncing that right, and a very other diseases that they're finding in Michigan as well as other states across that. Let's say we were to pick up an animal and stray and bring it currently either to here, or we used to go to the DPW where we had those cages and the
Perfect time. Turn around.
on cue.
Just good.
I told her she'd get a treat for that. Even though I'm allergic, so I might start sneezing.
You can stay here. You don't go to Pontiac.
So I don't know if you have any questions. I mean, currently, let's say I was here working by myself and we had an animal issue or whatever where I would have to go take care of the animal issue. We'd have to call in somebody then maybe to cover the city while we're dealing with an animal and bring it here. We don't really have the facility to house that animal properly. Therefore, they become part of the structure and the family. So, and that's happened more than once in my time here. Fortunately, we're able to find homes for them. One good thing is many of the residents are more than willing, knowing that we don't have the facility or whatever, to keep the animal at their house, which we try to encourage, which saves us a lot of grief and work. And that keeps us obviously actively on the street and be able to provide service that we need more. Not that the animal issue isn't important, but if somebody's having a medical issue or a crime happening and we're busy with an animal, then we have to leave the animal issue alone and go to handle that. So I think the deal with the county, as Scott has mentioned, is a fantastic program that the city should look at maybe adopting and changing the ordinance.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, question.
Yeah.
So currently, if the city were to pick up an animal, that animal may go to the county as it is, right? We would keep it for a short amount of time and then transfer it to the county?
They might not be willing to accept that. Typically, we try to I hate to use the word dump on, but either with Berkeley or Ferndale, because we don't have the facility and they're close and they're more than willing. But as the process goes on and more animals, they may be less willing to be so generous.
Didn't you say you have to pay?
Yes,
Do you have to pay Oakland County to take?
there was a couple. When we talked to the county, there was an option of paying per animal that we take there, and our officers are still really doing the control part of it, and pay per day that, and an animal could end up being there for a number of days to house them, and it just this way, if really the the county is, we'll be selling county licenses instead of the Pleasant Ridge ones, and then they receive the funds from that, and that helps them fund the program. But it's a minimal amount of money that we collect in licensing, and it actually increases the ability for residents to buy licenses online, a 3-year license, or some other options for people. So we think it really opens up the door to make it easier for people to use.
And I was just going to say, I think it's important that people do buy licenses, and I know that now with the Oakland, as you said, Oakland County, they actually conduct a census.
Yeah, and I'll
So-
spell that out a little bit, because that could be a surprise for some people. The county's able to fund their animal control program with fees that they receive from licenses from dogs. So what will happen is people that have bought Pleasant Ridge licenses up to this year, those will be valid up until the next year when they would expire anyway, and then they'll be issued a county license when they purchase them. So we'll turn over our records to the county. They'll be able to put those all into their computer system, and their date for license renewal to be late is June 1st. So after June 1st, if you've had a license of Pleasant Ridge in the past and didn't get one renewed, they actually will send you a letter asking you, hey, your license has expired. Please, go to your city hall online and renew your license. And if at that point, if they have a certain time period, I think he said 6 weeks from that point, where they actually will have a crew of part-time like college kids that go around to the communities and we'll knock on your door and say, hey, we haven't heard from you on your license yet. We want you to do that. There's more than it's not just a money grab. It's being a responsible pet owner, making sure these dogs have rabies vaccinations, make sure they're being cared for in a proper way, and that's really the idea behind it. Not so they can get their $30. They really want everyone to be responsible dog owners, and that's the idea. So, the numbers of dogs that are licensed countywide are probably, I think, Bob, what did he say, 30%? I think. So it's just to be the responsible pet owner that we want everyone to be. We really need to have those dogs licensed and make sure they have those rabies shots. So that's one of the other things that would be nice. Where we really don't. We send out letters for people that don't have it, but there's really no more follow up after that. We only have so much resources to follow up on those dog licensing issues.
Unless we have like contact with that animal, then we'd
that's
initiate a follow-up and make sure that they're licensed and had their shots and things like that.
Right, and we've had them where the person didn't have those records, and we've held that animal until they're able to produce those. So we don't want to return the dog without their valid rabies vaccinations to an owner. Let's let that go past.
Scott, if the dog is identifiable as a Pleasant Ridge animal.
Oh, please.
Please come to the microphone.
Sorry.
John Wright, 10 Kemperton. If the dog is identifiable as a PR animal, got a Pleasant Ridge license, or it's identifiable through some other tag, it's not going to go up the road to Pontiac, is it?
Absolutely not. We'll make that first contact. I mean, our officer is going to be if there's a dog at large, let's say, and we get the call, and the officer's able to get that animal without calling in the county, they'll do that and check the tag. And if it's a Pleasant Ridge resident, we're of course going to call them up and have them come and get their
Just
animal.
tie it to the chair on the front.
Right. It's the ones that we have to that we're not able to identify that are the difficult ones. So that will be nice.
And I just wanted to say that this came about 3 years ago, but out at the county. What happened was we just kind of happened to find out that all the townships in the northern end of the county were getting free animal control taken care of. Where all the communities down here, Pleasant Ridge, Berkeley, Royal Oak, we had to pay for our dog catchers and everything goes along with it. So Commissioner Woodward from Royal Oak got it set up so that they had to open it up to everybody in the county. And it's too bad that some of the communities don't take advantage of it, but they want the right to be able to have their own animal control. But I'm glad to see Pleasant Ridge is taking advantage of it.
So the one last thing is that I don't want, by rescinding these ordinances, I don't want any of the residents to think that we're getting rid of any of the rules. All of the ordinances that are up to be rescinded are covered by the state law. So the state dog law and the Michigan Penal Code for like cruelty and things like that cover all these same same item. So basically what we're doing is we're rescinding the ordinances that have anything to do with or cross-reference to the dog law. And at that point, if we don't have any of those ordinances on file, the county can become our animal control department. So the rules will still be the same. It's just they're covered by a different entity, which would be the state of Michigan and the county.
So wherever there's overlap, that's where we're rescinding our own.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, Scott, I would just make it clear that we could still purchase our licenses here at City Hall.
That's correct. Right now, our only option for people is to purchase your dog license at City Hall. Once we change over, you'll be able to purchase here at City Hall. You'll be able to purchase Oakland County. You'll be able to purchase online, and you'll be able to purchase at a number of veterinarian offices in the county. So when your dog goes and gets their rabies shot, they can sell you a license right there. They can sell you a 3-year license. You don't have to come and see anybody or do anything for the next 3 years. So it's
What the cost be?
the cost for the licenses. If you have your dog spayed or neutered, the cost is going to stay the same. It's $7.50 for a year. For a 3-year license, you just multiply that by 3. The senior citizens have there's a for owners 65 plus. They have, you're able to get a discounted license for $6.75. If the dog isn't spayed or neutered, it would be $15 for the year or $45 for the 3-year license. The senior citizens would be $13.50. And then if you go past that June 1st date, which would be delinquent, it's a $30 license at that point, and that's for whether you're spayed, neutered, or whatever. If you go late, you have that $30. So the prices are the same for the spay and neuter. They do get a little higher once you get up there, and that's the county wanting to promote pet animal population control, because that's part of the problem.
I guess I'm now the official dog owner for our dogs. 75 cents cheaper.
There you go.
Scott, I had one more question regarding if an animal was sent to Oakland County, are we sending them to facilities that practice no-kill policies, or are we sending these animals?
They do not have a no-kill policy. They are a shelter that if need be, they have to put an animal down, they will. They are very proactive of getting dogs adopted. They have the best adoption rate of any of the, I hate to use the word a kill shelter in the state of Michigan. They adopt out upwards of 75% of their animals. But if there's an animal that is sick or injured that they're not able to do anything with, then unfortunately it is a shelter where they will put an animal down. But we do have a process that is laid out, and I've spelled that out in the memo, and you can go on Oakland County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center's website, and they have a very large write-up about that. But they hold the strays for 4 to 7 days to try to really find the owner before they even start looking at adopting the animal out. They put them through a full medical examination. They will then put the animal up for adoption. They have Facebook, they have Pet Finder, they have their own websites, and they update those 6 days a week, that website. So after that point, they'll keep the dog as long as they can, and most of the animals, like I said, will get adopted out. And at that point, there's a small adoption fee, and they make sure that the animal is spayed or neutered before it leaves the shelter. But unfortunately, there's not many shelters that are run by governments that are no-kill shelters. They're just the county takes in too many dogs. I think in 2012 they brought in just under 3,000 animals. It's a lot of animals that they're dealing with. So, but they are very responsible. Like I said, me and Amy went to the shelter, and we saw this little Jack Russell, and he had this cone on his head, and he was missing an eye, and he was limping around and walking into the wall. But they took the time to care for this dog, because someone will adopt them out, and it shows how. And he was walking around in their office area because he was just a nice little guy. So they, I think it's the responsible thing to do. Right now, we're housing the dog here for as long as you can. Like I said, sometimes an employee will even take the dog home, or we'll give it to a resident. And at that point, the one time we had someone had taken a dog and it just wasn't going to work out, so we ended up taking it up to Berkeley, and there's no real process for it now. It's better to have this laid out in a real process and somebody handling it the way it should be handled, being able to take care of the animals the way they should be. So.
Well, I am encouraged by the opportunity that the county provide this adoption, and that would be available on the website. You mentioned that for people who are interested in adopting those animals.
Yep, and we'll put a link once we're official. We'll put a link up there to ours and for people to be able to go and see the adoption animals.
Okay.
And it was very clear reading up, I was seeing that they were talking about their increasing rates of adoption over the last few years, that's what they're working on all the time.
Yeah,
So they're up to 74%.
Yeah, it's a huge, their adoption program is huge. Like I said, their websites are great. They update it all the time. And even the pit bulls that come in, they try to work with the local pit bull rescue to get those dogs put there and in place. You know, the state of Michigan has a zero tolerance on the pit bulls, unfortunately. But they worked with some shelters to be able to even get some of those placed in homes and worked out that way. So I'm encouraged by, I love animals as much as anybody. I have a rescue dog myself, and I feel that the county is really stepping it up to try to get things done the right way. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Scott, I got one more question for you on this. I know we just had a public hearing and we didn't have any comments, but have you got any comments, calls, visits, anything at City Hall since last month?
No, we haven't, and I really think it's because we're not really changing anything other than we'll have an official place to take the animal, and we'll have a department of 7 full-time officers and a bunch of part-timers. So I think people understand that it's really just kind of shifting the responsibility off our officers, being able to give them more time on the roads and dealing with other issues than an animal. So I think people understand why the process is, and overall it'll be good for everybody. So
thank you.
Okay.
If I could probably answer a couple questions that maybe come up if you give me a second.
Sure.
The main thing is licensing the animals. Our officers carry a list of Pleasant Ridge licensed animals in the car with them. If we run across a licensed animal that's from Pleasant Ridge, we're able to look at the address, the phone number, go. And if you're not home, then we'll go to your neighbor's house, whatever. If that's the case, then we'll bring them here, because none of us want to take your animal to the county, trust us, or anywhere else. We're all caring and compassionate for that as animal owners, whatever. So we do keep that, and we make every effort to try to get your animal back to you rather than taking it to a pound. And that wouldn't change at all with the county license. I'm sure we could get that information.
we'll have it right online. We'll have all county licenses will be able to get some.
And we do that with other cities, because many times other cities' animals wander into our town, and we do the same thing and contact them. So we make every effort to try to get your animal back to. And again, on cue.
Every time you come up,
It's your voice. Because I'm here at night where they're alone. Well, I should put it that
look at her sit, yes. You two have obviously formed quite a bond.
way. And I'm allergic to her, but I still have to. She still has to be cared for. So hopefully that answered some of your guys' questions.
Thank you. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance?
Mayor, I move ordinance number 406, which rescinds certain sections of the Pleasant Ridge Code, Chapter 10, Animals, Articles 1, 2, 3, and 4, Divisions 1 and 2, Sections 10-4 through 10-107, be approved, and that the information be forwarded to Oakland County Animal Control so that they may begin to provide animal control services to the city of Pleasant Ridge.
Is there a second?
I second.
May we take a vote?
Commissioner Scott?
Yes?
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Foreman?
Yes.
Commissioner Kuziak?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you so much, Sergeant.
Thank you.
You and
Thank you.
your partner in crime. The next item is consideration of the request by the Pleasant Ridge Foundation for the city to donate certain items to its annual auction to be held Saturday, May 17th, 2014. This is an exciting part.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this is an item that is on the agenda every year. So we, as you know, the city is a big supporter of the foundation's fundraising efforts. Of course, we reap a lot of those benefits when we go and request money from them. So the city has, on a yearly basis, donated items that are some of the more popular ones at the auction for their fundraising items. So I'll just go through the list here real quick so the people at home know what at least the city items that are going to be at the auction will be this year. So we have 2 community center rentals. There's a summer fun package which includes 5 pool guest passes, a concession stand credit, 2 free swim lessons, and 1 summer program registration. Those 2 items are residents only, of course, because those programs are resident only. This year we added a 10 by 10 engraved brick, one that could go out on the walkways that we have that the DDA sells. 1 private pool party for 10, which that's another one that's a resident only. So the private pool party we have, actually the time we put down there is from 7 to 9. So from 7 to 8 the pool is still open. We'll put a space on the new turf area for them, but then they'll have the last hour from 8 to 9 p.m. would be just the people in the pool. So that would be a nice one there. Another new one that we're proposing out there is to have a replica historic street sign house marker, one of the newer street signs, the cast iron ones that someone will be able to purchase and then give us the information that they wanted to put on there, as long as it's, is appropriate, and we would have that made for them, and they'd have that delivered to their house. So the interesting part will be to see people's faces when we hand it to them and they realize they weigh about 100 pounds apiece. 2 Name a Streets. Name a Streets are always a couple of the more popular items. A police ride along. And a new one for this year that the foundation was, at least the president was very excited about, was to bid on to be the grand marshal of the Memorial Day Parade. So maybe we're trying to come up with some different ideas, and this one is, when I talked to Keith, he was like, man, he was just throwing, oh, we could do this, and this, so excited about it. So it'll be, I think that one's an interesting one. So they might actually pull that with like the engraved brick and have the person's name engraved in on for the grand marshal of the parade. So.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
Do they get to ask for a longer parade route?
I wasn't going to say anything, Jason. I was looking at you, Jason.
Been there, done that.
Wants and needs.
It's a long story which we won't go into.
I recommend approval of these items for the foundation.
Can I have a motion to approve?
Mayor, I move the City Commission approve the items recommended by the City Commission as donations to the Pleasant Ridge Foundation for sale at its 2014 annual auction.
Do I have a second?
A second.
May we take a vote?
Commissioner Foreman?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Krzyjak?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott?
Yes.
Mayor Metzger?
Yes. And just to add, there will be a donation from the City Commission as well, which will be a separate donation, which we're not going to reveal at the moment, but hopefully it will be popular. Okay, the next item, and totally appropriate. The next item is consideration of the road reconstruction update.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick update. I've been in contact with engineers probably 3 or 4 times in the last week or two about moving forward with the road reconstruction for this year, which is West Cambridge. And they completed the underground televising of the Oxford sewer, and there's the sewer's actually in pretty good shape. There was a lot of deep root cutting and cleaning that had to take place, but the overall condition of the pipe is in good shape. There's only one area that will have to be what we call a dig up, where they'll actually have to replace a piece of the pipe, and it's a small section. So for a road that length, that's pretty good. So where we are right now with West Cambridge is that the contractor wants to get a jump on the construction season and wants to start a little bit earlier than what the June date when we were originally shooting for. So they would love to be able to start in mid-May time. And our concern was the school with West Cambridge, but the contractor has looked at the site and looked at the school traffic in the morning, and they feel that if we start from the Maplefield end and go to about halfway, that there'll be minimal effect on the school traffic that's going down there in the Ridge Road area. So as long as we can work everything out with the contractor and get the notice out to residents and have our meeting in time for that, I think we're going to try to start it as soon as we can. The contractor that we're using this year, Delisio, they when they start, they move much faster. They're a little bit larger organization than some of our previous contractors, so when they get out there, they're really going to want to move forward, because the quicker they get done, then they can move their resources to another job. So they do good work. And the engineering, AEW has worked with them before, and they're excited to get going on this season. So people on West Cambridge are going to be hearing from the city here probably by the end of the week with a letter about their sewer leads. And then we are going to also set a date for the pre-construction meeting with the residents, and we're going to get rolling on this. So, of course, there's always impact to the residents for road reconstruction, but we try to minimize that as much as possible. And we are, the people on West Cambridge will be fortunate because Oakdale comes through, so we'll have a little bit of parking on Oakdale that we'll be able to use. And then once the school lets out, we'll ask the school if we can use their parking lot for the residents on that other end. And they've done that in the past and haven't had a problem. So I think it'll be good getting started a little bit earlier and getting half done, and then be ready for when school lets out for the other half. So.
Can you also update us on patching?
I can.
Please.
So we finally have had our thaw that we've been looking for, and the snow piles are basically gone, and the holes are starting to dry out. So the company that we have contracted to do the I call it the permanent fix, the permanent patch, we were second on their list. So that's going to start here any day now. As soon as we know we're going to have some good non-rainy weather and non-freezing temperatures at night, they're going to get out there and get that. So hopefully within the next week / 2 weeks, you'll start to see them coming out and doing that work. So any of the larger potholes that you see on Ridge Road and Ridge Road in Cambridge, some on Woodward Heights, Millington, they have some big ones. Oxford, we're going to do Oxford full, even though we're doing that street next year. We want to stop the bleeding on that street, I should say. So you'll see that patching crew out and doing some work. So that should be here by 2 weeks. That should be all finished up. So.
Scott, you're going to we're doing the sidewalks on West Cambridge as well?
Correct.
At the same time?
Yep.
Okay. And then you had mentioned the sewer leads. I know someone had met a newer resident to the city on a street that had been done in years past had posted something on Facebook about he was so grateful that the previous owner had done that sewer leak because he had to do the other part to his house and realized what a great asset that is, and to chunk it out, and especially I know I did it when my street was torn up, that really is such a huge benefit and cost savings.
Yeah, it is. I think this year the short side addresses will be about between $1,300 and $1,500 to do from the city sewer up until 1 foot into the sidewalk, and that's probably a savings of $6,000 to $7,000 because the expensive part of the pipe is under the street. So if you have to tear up that street, especially after your street's been repaved, you have to go seam to seam. So you're doing at least a 10 foot by 10 foot piece of solid 6-inch concrete that's reinforced to replace it. That is
really expensive.
Big money, and a $5,000 cash bond that you have to give the city anytime you're going to start breaking up the city's concrete. So this year, actually, in the letter, the residents will notice I'm going to put a blurb about the sewer line insurance program that is offered too, and I recommend that every resident sign up for this at $7 a month. The company I think they even will snake your drain for one time a year, at least, and then they'll actually come and, if you have a break or anything, they'll come and fix it, and there's no additional cost to you. I think you have up to $7,000 per occurrence. So even if you have to break up the street, they're going to come and fix that at no additional cost to you for about $7 a month. When you work out the math, it'd take you about 30 years to pay for one repair, even at that $7 a month. So we're really pushing that. I mean, the replacement of the program is great, but if you can sign up for this insurance, it pays for itself.
Is there information on the website about that?
There is a link on the website, but I'll double check on that. But it's what is the website? Yeah, it's like national. I can't remember it. Yeah. Sewer Line Warranties of America. It's SLWOA. .com, and you just put in, search for Pleasant Ridge, and you can sign up right there. If you pay the yearly in advance, you save a little bit of money, or you can pay it by the month. It's a great program, and in the spring they're going to do another, coming up here, they're going to do another program that covers water lines. So if you have a problem with your water line, you never have it replaced, you can sign up for that insurance.
Do we have many problems with our water lines?
The water lines, we don't have as many problems, minus this winter. This winter we had some issues with that, but this would cover, I believe it covers interior lines too if you have a problem on the inside. So they're going to have some information, they're going to send that out to all the residents. So if you get a letter, you'll get a letter probably within a month or two from them. This is an additional program that they're offering on top of.
That's great.
So cool. Yeah, they're only good for the residents to sign up for, and the company is endorsed by the National League of Cities, and a number of other communities in the area use them also. So I think we have a 25% sign up rate right now in the city of People, and last year they had 26 claims.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah, I mean sewers are
we're getting on
with the tree roots here.
Yeah.
It's a big problem. So
That's great.
Old trees.
old trees. Yep. So
Scott, I've got just a follow-up question on the patching. So would you say that we will be looking at every single street in the city, including the alleys, and patching all the serious holes throughout? Or
that is correct. We've already actually done an audit of those and looked at the larger holes. The permanent patch on a small hole doesn't really make sense to do it because the cold patch will do just as fine with that. So Rodney's already gone around. Actually, the Kensington alley between the freeway and Devonshire, that's going to be all done in that section too. But any of the large holes have already been identified, and they will be out getting those. So on a side note from that, I know that the state of Michigan had expended some money to help with these type of repairs. So we received our $9,381, I think it was, yesterday in our Act 51 check. So that'll be going to directly cover the cost of that patching. So
That's great.
it'll be nice.
Okay. Scott, you're up. The next item is city manager's report.
Okay, yep, just a couple things. The mayor mentioned the city manager meet and greet at Fort Ridge at 7 p.m. on Friday, April 11th. So that'll be an exciting event as the city moves forward in that process. And the next day will be the pancake brunch. That's 10 a.m. for the brunch, and the hunt is 11:30 sharp. Thursday, the 17th, we have a 50-plus bingo night scheduled at 6:30. You RSVP. Really, come and play the bingos. How fun are the bingos, Rob? I mean, they're great. So we just play bingo. We give out prizes, and it's a good time. And actually, I think Bridget is going to be off that day, so I'm going to be running bingo. I get look at now, everyone, we're not going to have anyone show up, right?
May have to try that out.
So the cover, we have our date for the cover to come off the pool. It's April 16th. The water is thawed. The shell the ice is gone. So I started pumping water out today to get it down a little bit. So far, it doesn't look, the bad areas that you look for are where the gutter meets the concrete, and I didn't see too many cracks in the areas I was able to look. So we'll just cross our fingers and we'll see. The tile work will be the other thing that
Is there a little ceremony that goes with that?
Yeah.
Taking the cover off, look for the dogs flying over the pool. You'll see it. They will be in there within 2 hours. So,
Might be good this year.
It's actually,
Then I'll use it.
if you're in the area, drive by the pool on April 16th when they're pulling that cover off. It's amazing to see them do it. Our cover is one solid piece, and it's crazy to see them do it. And then they clean it all out, and we start filling that day. So
Who does it?
the company we use is Aquatic Source.
Oh, okay.
They've been a great pool company that we've used for the last, I think, 5 years now. So
That's cool.
it's time. It's coming. So we also, a couple other events. There's a Go Comedy and Lunch at Dino's event coming up. We'll go to Dino's to eat lunch in Ferndale, and then they have a highly interactive game show. It's one part Whose Line Is It Anyway and one part Match Game. That is Thursday, March 29th at 11:45. I think they're taking a bus.
April 29th?
May 29th.
May 29th.
I'm sorry, May 29th. I think they're taking a bus there.
Which group is this?
This is anybody that wants to sign up for it, not anyone over, I think you have to be over 21 because they serve alcohol at the place. So 11:45 to 4:15, that's 20 per person, and your lunch is additional. So, and the community garden sign up has started for those who had a plot last year. New gardeners will be accepted starting April 21st, and we've had quite a few people come in already. So the garden is going to start. We were concerned about having the garden ready too with the ground too, but I think we're going to be okay. The warm up is
Warming
been
up
nice.
nicely.
So that is it for me.
Okay. Sorry. All right. Thank you, Scott. Next item is other business. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
This is a good one.
On March 23rd, Commissioner Perry and I attended a screening of the film documentary Lean, Mean, and Green. It was directed by Carrie Lazat, and it starred our esteemed mayor here. And it was based on a book written by a local journalist. His name is John Gallagher, and he wrote a book called Reimagining Detroit. The film was based on concepts explored in this book as far as challenges facing Detroit, but other communities throughout the world who are seeing shrinking populations and industrial infrastructure. And the film was very interesting. They went to Turin and into the heartland of Germany, various cities in the United States, Youngstown, Ohio, and looked at what other communities were responding to this shrinkage in population, but this demand for services of a much larger footprint. So I approached Mr. Gallagher after the screening of the film. He participated in a panel and asked him if he would be interested in joining us for our book club discussion. He said he would love to. So we scheduled a book club of Reimagining Detroit, and we'll have the author, John Gallagher, join us in Pleasant Ridge on Tuesday, May 20th, 7 o'clock at the Community Center. He's really looking forward to it. The mayor has agreed to moderate that evening, and I think it'll be a really stimulating conversation as far as the future of this region. And like I said, I really look forward to reading through the book. I'm not that much into it yet, but by the May 20th, I should have it all done. So, but I really encourage anyone, please contact me. I can get you a book, or BookBeat, has copies of Reimagining Detroit. But I would hope that anyone interested would join us on May 20th. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Now, it should be good, and we're going to try to really push this to get a broader audience, both within Pleasant Ridge, and see if we can reach out to surrounding communities and get others involved, because it is an interesting topic. He has a follow-up book called Revolution Detroit, taking it the next step. So, and he does some great writing for the Free Press. He's their urban affairs guy, so it should be fun.
Yeah.
This is going to be good. Any other business?
Mayor, I wanted to just bring up again the foundation event, which the Las Vegas night is going to be May 17th. And so they also do have an ad book for the auction, as well as, I'm glad you brought up the book for the
Historical Commission and
the House and Garden Tour. Because that's a great place, especially for local businesses, to be able to put some of their ad dollars that can really speak to your neighbors in the community. So that could be a really, that's a great event. So I know the Pleasant Ridge Foundation has a website, and on that site it has the information of how to place an ad and everything too. And then, is there any other information we should say about the auction? So it's on the 17th.
The 17th at Fort Ridge. I believe they start at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that. It's on the back of
on the back
on the back page of the Ridge. All the information's on there. So
Okay.
Definitely check that out.
Volunteers.
Yes, and they'll be looking for volunteers, probably some good dealers.
Mm-hmm.
So Devonshire had a plethora of dealers last year, and I'm hoping they will again. So that's great. That's all.
One quick last question, and this is for Scott. Since Friday, we've had a good amount of discussion between us about the trash issue that we had. The compost was not picked up. I wonder if you could just explain for those that haven't been a part of those conversations what the issue was and how we'll make sure it doesn't happen again, and what can residents do on a trash day when City Hall is closed? What should they do?
Sure. Well, there was a little mix-up. We had called Sakura about finding out what day the yard waste collection started. So the Sakura website and all the materials they say says that yard waste collection starts the first Monday of April. So we called Sakura and they said, well, you start on the Friday. Well, the first Friday is the 4th. Well, the haulers consider the yard waste pickup is starting on the first Monday in April, which is today, or was yesterday. So our first pickup
Would have been
is Friday, this Friday coming up, the 11th. So it's really kind of like a misunderstanding about, you could read it as saying, okay, starts the first Monday, then the first Friday, because we don't have pickup on Monday, of course, starts then. So seemed to be a little confusion between Sakura and the haulers there, and then getting the information over to us. So I know a lot of people pulled back their yard waste, they put it out, and we appreciate that. If you did have it out still on Monday, we did send our DPW guy around to get it for you, because we did receive a couple calls from some people that just were not able to pull it back, whether they had somebody put it out there for them, they were elderly, or they just weren't able to do it. So we did collect that for them. The protocol is if you have a trash issue on a Friday, call Sakura first, which is the number's 248-288-5150, and say, hey, basically if your trash didn't get picked up or if you had an issue, and they'll say, okay, if it didn't get picked up, they can dispatch the trash guy out to come and get it. If it's a bigger problem than that, like a logistics problem, like I think the trash took my recycling or vice versa, or I didn't get my boxes picked up because of whatever reason, you can call Sakura on that. But at that point, they're probably going to tell you to call your city, because it's kind of like an individual city thing, because every city has some different recycling guidelines of their pickup. Like Huntington Woods has a single stream system. Ours is, everybody's different. So you can call and leave a message at City Hall. If you want to talk to somebody that day, you can call over to the community center, and there's, the building's open over there, and we're gonna give them, the staff at the community center, the ability to be able to answer those questions, or to be able to have the number to Tringali to be able to call them. So we'll try to make it as painless as possible to get garbage problems solved. It's, the biggest problem I always say garbage is if it doesn't get picked up at all, and that's what happened with the yard waste this week. So we want to make sure that those issues do not happen. It's not something that we take lightly, and it was unacceptable the way it ended up coming down. So we'll make sure that it does not happen again and get it fixed.
Well, thanks to you guys and Amy and
Thanks to
Ryan.
Amy. I wasn't even here. I was on vacation. They did a great job of getting it done, and I was like, I started reading emails, and I was like, oh my God.
No, thanks for taking care of that, because that made everybody happy.
We tried to reach you, Scott.
So I guess the one thing is if you have a problem, please let us know. That always putting it on Facebook or something like that is not, that site isn't monitored necessarily by the city staff. I know a lot of the city commissioners are on there and they try to get out answers, but if we don't know about a problem as soon as we can get it solved, then it's difficult for us on Monday to get it solved, and then we're playing catch up. But even if you call and leave a message, that way we know, okay, this person had a problem, and we can take care of it.
Don't be afraid to call.
I'm going to try to get something with Sakura too, where they're keeping a log of our calls, so that we can have a system with them to say, okay, this many people called and this was the problem. So we really want to get it fixed and make garbage seamless.
Right, we want to emphasize that. I mean, it's great to have Facebook, but really, unless people are calling official numbers, nobody knows to get it done.
Right, exactly.
It happened with the Fort Ridge being closed. Nobody actually called.
Yeah, that was a whole
complained,
other.
but nobody made a call about it. So
Right.
it really does.
Right.
Just last couple things, I promise we'll be done. Just to remind you that the Citizen Advisory Committee, for those people, they are open meetings. They are fascinating. I don't know why more people don't come and just sit there, but they will be meeting both the 10th, this Thursday, and then 2 weeks on the 24th. Coffee with Commissioners on the 22nd, 2 weeks from tonight. The Planning Commission meets on the 28th, and the Recreation Commission meets on the 30th. And so we always encourage people to come. The meetings are very interesting, and it's always good to see your city in action and see a lot of the residents who have been volunteering and doing such a tremendous job. It always is nice to come out and support the work that they're doing and show them that you appreciate it. So I encourage you to come out there. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? So tired. We are adjourned.